You are listening to the Iconic Agent New Construction Marketing Podcast.
I'm Nathaniel Crawford.
And I'm Damon Green.
We've helped agents sell over $400 million in new construction since 2020.
And now we're here to skyrocket your sales. Let's build your real estate empire and create the life you deserve. Today's episode, Nate and I discuss the importance of being out and exactly where to go. So that, I used to like to sit behind the computer, and I like to be a behind the scenes kind of guy. And one of the things you had mentioned that your buddy Seth, the regional director, or whatever his big title is at, what is he?
He's the chief sales officer.
Sales officer at Sotheby's had told him when you were with Sotheby's, he's like, Nate, you got to be out. And you said that to me so many times, and I'm starting to get more to it. Also, we put on events ourselves, so that I consider as being out. But I started to hit some events up in Min, a couple other events with you. I spoke at NARAD right up the street. I like to speak at events, and I'll go to events too. But what is the important for agents that they're not necessarily speakers or putting on events themselves? What's the benefit to being out, and what are some benefits and why, or what are some good events that are like must go tos?
Yeah, well, the benefit, one of the biggest benefits is the network. Like you hear, it's cliche when people say, oh, your network is your net worth. But as you go to events, especially events outside of your market, but even events in whatever city you're in, your network grows. So you get a larger network of people that just have different knowledge than you have, agents that focus on different things. So you meet different commercial agents or residential agents or guys who specialize in car washes or whatever. So when you then meet more people, you have more resources. So that's a big piece of that. But you also are building a referral network. So when you're going to, say, a Inman Connect in Vegas or Inman in San Diego or there's an Inman, I think the Inman in Nashville was last week. There's Inman here in Miami, the Inman Connect event in New York. When you're going to these places, you're meeting other agents in what many cases can be feeder markets for you. So you're meeting someone who doesn't have a connection in Miami. You're meeting someone who doesn't have a connection in Atlanta. So now you built a rapport with them. Obviously, you stay in touch, you follow up, you build that meaningful relationship. But what happens as a result of that is now when they need someone, they're going to call you because now they have someone. So instead of using some random referral portal for whatever brokerage they're in and just putting it in there and picking a name, saying, oh, this person works there, they have someone who occupies that space in their brain. They can say, oh, I know Damon. I met Damon at Inman. I got somebody who's looking in Tampa. Hey, Damon, can you help me with this? Oh, I met Nate.
It's not just a random person they go to, because we've had people do this, go to their brokerage portal and say, here's the referral network, and say, hey, is there somebody here? And they have a conversation, and the person they deal with is a jackass.
Exactly. So, and you're just leaving your client out there for that. And if you send your client to someone and they have a bad experience, that experience has a very strong possibility of reflecting on you. So you want to make sure that you have as much control of that as possible. And a big way to have that is to make sure you're out building those meaningful relationships, both locally and nationally. Now the other local piece to that is, as you sell more and more real estate, as your book of business grows, as the amount of time you've been in the business grows, you're going to start to get people who are looking for things that you may or may not be comfortable selling, or you may not have sold before, or your broker may tell you you need someone to help you mentor you on this because you've never sold an apartment building or you've never sold a strip mall, but you have a client that you sold a condo to that wants to buy a strip mall. And it's your job to have someone in your network that you can call up and say, hey, Mike, I know you're focusing in commercial, and I have a client here that wants to buy a strip mall. Can you help me with this transaction? And you'll have that because you've been out building those relationships, and you built that Rolodex of people that you can then call and say, can you help me with this? Instead of having to refer it out. One of the most painful things, I think, is for someone to come to you with a really, really big commercial deal, and you can't do the deal. So now you got to take a fraction of that as a referral because you don't have the experience.
So there's two different types of events. When we talk about events, there's events like, hey, we're doing a customer appreciation at Envy, come on out. And then there's events that are realtor specific events. And one of the biases, and I totally understand it, that we get, and it's got some validity to it, is I don't like going to realtor events because realtors act like they're better than everybody else and they won't share. They're snobby and they're like, oh, well, you're in this market, and they act like, they're faking the funk.
Yep.
And they just don't like that. Now, yes, that has some validity to it, but what are some events? So if we look at it in two different aspects, we have developer specific brokers open type events, and then there's realtor events or real estate agent events where they can get quality events, because there's some events that are crap. There's a bunch of broke agents that can't do anything. Let's talk about the types of events to go to and the thought process behind those events. Like, you're going to an event where there's working agents and they have to take 3 days off of their business. They have to fly into this place. So they're spending between $5,000 to $7,000 just to be there, meaning they are making money, versus going to, a local, say, Florida Realtors event where everybody's coming for the free food and all that. So kind of walk through thought process behind it.
So there are two types of strategies there, at least I think, among the others, but the two big ones are, if you're being intentional about going to an event that requires you to go away, think about the types of agents that attend said event. So what you just described is a very good description of, say, a Inman Connect or Inman Luxury Connect.
Inman's dope. Yes.
So those are high quality agents. Are some of the agents there assholes? Of course they are. But there are also a lot of really, really good agents that are go there, so you can build those good relationships. Other really good events that can be local sometimes are events that tend to blend sort of business and real estate. So if you look at like the Biz Now, events, Biz Now has really good events. A lot of them speak about development or municipalities or commercial real estate and residential real estate. So they're developers and investors, and the whole real estate ecosystem is there, not just agents trying to buy or sell real estate. So that changes a lot of the dynamic there when it comes to, these are the types of people you're meeting. Biz Now events are just like going to, say, a commission event, local commissioner event. These are places where not only you get to learn the real estate landscape of what's going on and who the players are, but you get to learn who the players are in the literal sense. You get to know what they look like. It seems absurd to me in a lot of ways that there are real estate agents who don't know what the largest developers in their city look like. You could see them at McDonald's and you wouldn't know who they were. Mm-hmm. You know who Beyonce is and she's not buying nothing from you, but you don't know who the man who developed the community that you've sold 5 houses in looks like. You should know who that guy is too, probably before you should know who Beyonce is. And a lot of agents don't understand. They don't know that. They don't realize that. That's not something they give a lot of thought to. So going to a local Biz Now event, going to a Chamber of Commerce event, going to a city commission meeting, those are things that are on the local level can be very powerful, just like going to national events, going to an Inman Connect conference, going to an Art Basel, going to these other larger, some social events that where you're going to have high caliber buyers, sellers, and people there is a very, very powerful way for you to build your network.
So what about attending, I missed yesterday's event where it's like, I'm not going to go. It's going to be a bunch of realtors that might have sold there. It's my competition. I'm not going to go to the developer happy hour.
Yeah. Well, that's a relationship thing. If you question the quality of people that are going to be at an event and you don't have any intention behind that, like when I go to an event at the W, or I go to an event at Envy, or I go to those events, most of the time I'm not there to necessarily meet a whole bunch of other agents. And occasionally you meet dope agents, but I'm there at most on-site events to talk to the on-site salespeople. to talk to the developer, to talk to, occasionally you'll meet other agents that have sold stuff there. So you can, it's always an opportunity to network. But the intention when going to new construction, happy hours and stuff like that, on-site events, is usually to build or enhance your rapport with the people on site there, with the developer there. This is also one of the ways that you can leverage what you learned at the commission meeting, at one of those Biz Now events. Because what I found is very often at a lot of the on-site sales events, especially the bigger ones, the developer will be there, but nobody knows that he's the developer because nobody knows what he looks like.
Back in the cut.
So he's just walking around, having a drink and laughing and cracking jokes with the people that do know him, but he doesn't know. Nobody else knows him. So then he becomes impressed when you're like, hey, this is a great project. And he's like, how do you know me? So those little nuances are things that can set you apart because you literally know what someone looks like. You know the questions you can ask them. If you work in a community, if you're selling in that community, if you've been selling in that community for a while, there are almost always going to be opportunities for you to run into developers or investors or other major real estate players in your city. And if you see them and you're able to acknowledge them, they will be impressed by the fact that you know who they are.
Thanks for tuning in to the Iconic Agent New Construction Marketing Podcast for Realtors. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast player. Visit theIconicAgent.com and grab the new construction buyer traction blueprint. And don't forget, join the 5,000 plus strong new construction marketing community at www.theIconicAgent.com/community. Catch you on the next episode.